Memorandum number 1. Is there a conspiracy explanation for recent history? The reader anxious to get into the story of the Order should go directly to Memorandum number 2. This section concerns methods, evidence, and proof, essential but perhaps boring for most readers. During the past 100 years, any theory of history or historical evidence that falls outside a pattern established by the American Historical Association and the major foundations with their grant-making power has been attacked or rejected, not on the basis of any evidence presented, but on the basis of the acceptability of the argument to the so-called Eastern liberal establishment and its official historical line. That's from an introduction to the Order and America's Secret Establishment, an introduction to the Order of Skull and Bones by Anthony C. Sutton. Excellent book. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Stench of Truth. Just talking with a friend of mine, a fellow YouTuber, Vocal Brush, which I can highly recommend her channel to you if you do not currently have a subscription to her channel. I would urge you all to do so because she is a great vlogger and absolutely incredibly talented musician and a talented singer. So I can highly recommend her. But anyway, discussing with her, the subject of George Sedini came up, and I'm not going to rehash anything about him because talking about him caused me to take the discussion to another level, and that was to say, what the fuck is wrong with the world that we live in today? Because, you know, you read, you know, blogs from George Sedini and you find out that he had a pretty good childhood. I mean, compared to some people like me and others who had a tough childhood. You know what I mean? You know, I know people who were abused when they were kids, who were physically, emotionally, mentally abused. You know, I know people who are adults today who went through horrors in childhood, absolute horrors, and they grew up in an environment which is just atrocious and awful. But today they're productive members of society. They're not fucking psychos and lunatics. And I'm not trying to say that back when I was a kid that there weren't crazy people and there weren't psychos that did stuff, because there were. But does it seem to you, or is it just me, that the world today just seems to produce these people? Why is that? If it's true. If it's not just me, you know, making something out of it that it's not. Is there, you know, is there a program? Is there something going on today which causes these people to come out, to be more assertive? I mean, look at all the school shootings we had. Now, I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that during all the time that I was in fucking school, I never heard of a single fucking shooting in any fucking school. The whole time I went through all 12 grades in some college, I would bet. You know, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But if I can't remember, that should tell you that it wasn't that big of a deal if it did happen. Okay? The worst thing you might get is, you know, somebody beating someone up, you know, which is pretty standard kid stuff. But I don't remember a single incident of that. And then, what do you have? You know, a bunch of school shootings in high school, in colleges, you know. And then you have George Sedini doing what he does. You have people just snapping and going crazy. And to look back into the past to see, you know, why these people are the way they are, I look at them and I see something mediocre. It doesn't even add up to me. Is it genetic? Is it just happen to be a genetic thing? Maybe there's something that's causing some kind of fucking genetic mutations in society or something which leads these people to be there, to create psychoses, to create problems that resolve themselves in huge bloody violence. But I can tell you right now that if it's just nurture, if it's just the way you grew up and what you were exposed to as a kid, I and a whole bunch of people I know should all be fucking wacko psychos out there shooting the shit out of everything. But we're not. So you have to wonder, is what I'm saying a fact? Are there really more crazy people that just go fucking nuts for apparently little reason? That don't really even have a background of childhood abuse or neglect or anything like that. My generation, we all had, our share of problems when we were kids. Some worse than others. But I can't think of a single person in my life from my childhood who turned out to be a murderer or a psycho, even though there are many people I know who suffered terrible, terrible fucking childhoods, which should have crushed them, but didn't. Is it just a question of people being more vulnerable today? Is it a genetic thing that's being expressed in society? Or is it something more sinister going on? Maybe there aren't more. Maybe I'm just confabulating that. I don't know. But it certainly seems to me that there are. And it just got me wondering, what's up with that? Why is that? I mean, if it was just because you grew up in a bad home, there should be tens of thousands of psychos running around out there. And there certainly should have been a lot more back when I went to school, but there weren't. At least none that I can remember. It's food for thought. Food for thought. Thank you. Good night.